Hey everybody, Christy Birchfield here. Today we're looking at Judges chapter 4, and we're thinking about the idea of avoiding that roller coaster. What do we need to do to avoid those ups and downs that sometimes feel like part of the Christian life? How do we try to flatten that out and make it as more consistent of our life? And we see a great story in chapter 4. It's Judge Deborah. She's leading the people and helping them understand what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing, and they've been oppressed, right? They've fallen into one of those down swings where they've been disobedient, and now they've come to Deborah and asked Deborah, help us, talk to God, appeal to God, help us get out of this situation. So Deborah calls a commander called Barak and says, hey, God says you need to go attack. And he's kind of hesitant. He doesn't really want to. He makes some deals. Hey, you got to come with me, and kind of work some of that stuff out. But when it comes down to it, we get to verse 15, and it says, at Barak's advance, the Lord routed Sisera and all his chariots and army by the sword. Sisera got down and fled from his chariot on foot. So you get the idea that Barak had to advance. He had to take that step, right? He had to show his obedience. Once he did that, the Lord did everything else. God routed everything. They showed the obedience. They stepped forward. They went out just like God told them to. And God is the one that brought victory. Two things. First off, we have to take those steps. We can't just, oh yeah, God's got this. We have to actually be taking the steps that God has told us to take in order to be obedient. We can't just sit back on the sidelines and think, yeah, rah, rah, go, God, go. That's not how this works. We have to actually be taking the steps and moving forward. Second piece of this, you have the idea that while God is moving this forward, we continue to have to be obedient. Barak had to go. God's going to get the victory. God is going to do things in such a way that he's the one that gets the victory. He's the one that gets the glory. Ultimately, it is all about him, not us. So we can come through and say, okay, I can take my steps and I can be obedient. And that will bring about the victory that God is looking for and that God is orchestrating in our lives. Are we taking the steps that God has told us to take? Are we being obedient to the things that God is having us to be obedient to? What do we need to be doing in our life to be taking that next step so that God can continue to work and move in the background and all around us to bring the victory that he has?